This is Isotopes Park in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's a baseball field. Right now, it's January, and there's a little bit of snow on the field. Come April, there will be baseball games played here. And from this angle, I will describe them as the play-by-play announcer for the Albuquerque Isotopes. But really, seriously, how do you call a baseball game?
This is Crafting the Call. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, voice of the Lansing Lugnuts. And today, a year after Josh Sushan and I first started Crafting the Call with how do you call an inside the park home run? Well, today we're going to say, how do you call a baseball game at the fundamental level?
Jesse, do you remember the very first time that you called a baseball game? Where was it, and what did you think you were doing?
I remember a couple of different steps in the process. The very first time I ever recorded myself, so I was doing tape demo work. I was at the Bowie Bay Sox Stadium in Maryland, and I had my little handheld mini cassette recorder. And then from there, the first real time that I was on the air, I was at Ithaca College. And both times I was frightened out of my mind, and the game was going a lot faster than I was ready for. How about you?
I was in college at San Diego State, and we were not live. We recorded into cassette tapes, which would get played back on the student radio station later. I remember the first time that I was live, I was working for the Watertown Indians, the New York Penn League, and terrified, knowing as like the seconds were counting down to going on the air, and the amount of adrenaline and how fast my heart was beating, but also like excited, giddy, more confident than I probably should have been, but also no, really, like, what am I doing? I've listened to baseball my entire life. I've listened to all of these guys, but really, what do I do?
There really is that confidence, especially if you've put in all the preparation beforehand. You're ready. Your heart is pounding. You've watched through national anthems, starting lineups. We've got everything set. I've got my scorecard set. And then the game begins, and then things take off, and you are wrestling for control of that steering wheel.
I'm going to sound like an old man here, but I'm glad that when I started, the internet did not exist. I could not look up a lot of information. I had very little information about the players on the Watertown Indians, very little information about San Diego State's players. So what I truly focused on is play-by-play 101. What is it that I'm seeing? Describe what it is that I'm seeing, because I didn't have access to this information to be able to tell all these stories.
I think what I did too, and what I would argue probably a lot of young broadcasters do, is when you're first starting out, you're doing an impression. You're doing an impression of every baseball broadcaster that you've heard, and especially the great ones that you grew up listening to, and you're watching the game, you're listening to the game, and this is how they call the game, so this is how you will call the game. Al Michaels has said that he's calling baseball games, he's just being Vin Scully. And that's him coming up. And that's for all of us. First, learning the language, you start from that impression, and then you start becoming your own teacher and saying, this felt good. This didn't work. Okay, I need to get ready for this. And through that own self-teaching, you get your legs below you.
All right, well, rather than just talking about it, how about we put a game on? MLB Full Game 2024. Okay.
Braves, Phillies.
That first one popped up. That was the one you did.
Yankees, Cubs. Rockies, Yankees. Well, the Yankees, you've got your full pick. Epic Games of 2024.
Here we go. Pirates, Astros.
Ah, beautiful.
Let's go Pirates, Astros.
July 29th.
I have a feeling that Paul Skeens is the starting pitcher based on what popped up here. And I'm going to turn the volume down so that we can describe it instead of those who actually did describe it. And we have a commercial break.
Which is good. No, what I like about this is when you're practicing as a broadcaster, when you're just coming up as a broadcaster, it's such a basic, wonderful way to start is put on any game, mute it, and give it a try.
All right, so this is the pregame introductions that the television is putting together, and that is Paul Skeens. So I'm going to kind of start this way. Whenever I think about play-by-play, I think about this is breaking news. Now, most of the time when it's breaking news, it's something devastating, like the wildfires that are taking place right now in Southern California. That's heartbreaking. Maybe it's a police chase. Maybe it's usually breaking news is something awful and terrible. Baseball is not. Baseball is fun. And so my idea is this is still breaking news, though. So what are the most important things that the audience needs to know? And when Paul Skeens is the starting pitcher, that's the most important thing because he is this unbelievable phenom. So we have these stats that are in front of us that kind of gives background on what it is that he has done and why his numbers are so impressive. And so I've never liked keys to the game, Jesse. I've always just liked storylines. And the storyline is Paul Skeens.
My thinking with what a key to the game is what does a team need to do in order to win? Which dovetails in beautifully with, all right, the Pirates have their rookie ace on the mound. What they need to do in order to win is he needs to pitch well. And that's where every single football game, the keys are win the turnover battle and don't commit penalties. Okay, baseball, get a great start out of your starting pitcher, and then you know which batters you want to come through. Here's our Pirates starting lineup. Let's go.
All right, so you start things off here. Pirates are batting. You tell me, just talk through what you would be thinking about.
Well, the first thing that I want to share is Palacios, Reynolds, Cruz, the top three batters in the order. I'd also love to say, who do the Pirates rely on? How do they want to get runs out of this order? Where do things come from? Which batters do I think might have an edge against, in this case, Taylor Scott taking to the mound for the Astros? I also, from the very start of the game, want to be able to describe these uniforms. So I'm watching closely while I have this moment. What does each team look like today?
And we'll get into some of the differences between radio and television because, this is a visual medium here on YouTube. And so we have the defense that's being set here. I'm not a huge believer in like running through all of the names, but I am a believer in maybe focusing on one or two and saying something interesting about them, especially if someone is in a position that they're not normally in.
Here's where, and just to start right from the start, the pitch at a called strike on the inside corner. To get yourself set up for success when you call a baseball game, especially on radio, but TV, you have to be ready. You can't let that pitch take you by surprise. Joshua Palacios batting from the left side. If you're on radio, you say that, the pitch, up and away. And so we begin 1 ball and 1 strike. We get ourselves into a good rhythm, Josh. And on TV, you're ready for each of these. You don't want something to ambush you early. Break even. Swing and a miss, change up from Taylor Scott. And now, for me, there are different ways that broadcasters like to go about this. I know broadcasters who want to get all the information out. Let me give you all the umpires. Let me give you the dimensions of the field. Everything I can. Ease in, though. The deal, swing and a miss. He got him. 1 up, 1 gone. First strikeout for Taylor Scott. And now this is where I ease in. We're 1 batter into the ball game. Set the score. No score, just underway, right? That wonderful cliche of just underway. And now here's where I might start to give you my Astros starting defense.
So second batter of the game, Brian Reynolds is at the plate. And the way that my mind works is the first inning, especially the top of the first, I feel like it's a master of ceremonies, that you're welcoming people to what's going to unfold over the next 2.5 to 3 hours. So wind, sunshine, other just like different things that happened earlier in the day. I kind of just want to like welcome the audience in. I'm pretty sure that Taylor Scott is a reliever most of the time. There might be buffering in your stream as you're at the early stages of a game, and now Scott is back-to-back strikeouts. But I was about to say that probably not going to go very deep into the game. And so making sure the audience knows right away, he's not someone, don't expect him to pitch 7 innings. He is just going to go as hard as he can for as long as he can, a few batters, and then we're going to see a whole bunch of relievers after him.
Right now, we've started off with 2 real quick strikeouts. Here's O'Neill Cruz, the pitch. And that bends in for a called strike. Getting back to that whole idea of don't try to force too much in. Right now, the game is dictating. Scott is cruising, 2 up, 2 down. No score. Here's your game reset. Here's O'Neill Cruz batting 253, the pitch. That's a little low. I think that in my younger days that I would feel this urgency. Okay, what do I need to make sure that I get in right here? Well, the game is proceeding right along. And so Let the game dictate what you should talk about. Scott deals, low and away, and now we can ease a little bit more. 2 balls and a strike. I like you getting everything situated, Josh, in terms of the weather, the conditions. Welcome in. This is where you welcome in the late arriving crowd, like folks arriving late into the game right now. Hi, the pitch to Cruz. Ball 3, low and away. You're a little bit like the master of ceremonies at the very start, but also I would say that we are all watching this game together. You are accompanying everybody who's watching this game from wherever they are or listening to this game, wherever they might be. It's a hitter's pitch on 3-1. At a swing and a miss. Count is full. This is also where I think you can talk about how does each team come into this game? How hot are the Pirates or cold? How hot are the Astros or cold?
By the way, whenever I see a hitter call time, that is my immediate mental cue. If I'm on radio, I want to let the audience know batter just used his 1 timeout, which they normally do with 2 strikes.
Swing and a miss, struck out the side, got him to chase the 3-2 down low.
And so just to finish the thought, a lot of times you pause in the middle of a thought because here comes the pitch and I don't want to get caught. So maybe I've got something I want to say. And like I just did there, I paused so Jesse could say the pitch, right? But again, my mental cue when I see the batter call time is, okay, this is an opportunity for me to get in some of these details about the weather, about the wind, about the crowd, about just anything else about what are the storylines for the game. I think that Paul Skeens last year became one of these transcendent pitchers that when he's on the mound, 90% of the focus is him, right? The camera's going to be on him. We see him nodding with the pitch comm. And I think just all eyes are on him. But I also want to play up, okay, this is your Paul Skeens, but this is however many time All-Star Jose Altuve. But if you're Jose Altuve, it's like, okay, here comes the next big phenom. So I don't want to get into big picture storylines. I just want to focus on this matchup. It's a 1-1 pitch to Altuve, and he got fooled by that slider. So now the count's 1-2. I want to let it breathe a little. Kind of add to the drama a little bit. Sure, there's a lot of words we could say, but sometimes it's better to pause for the 1-2. And then describe a base. It's really, I found myself about to start doing play-by-play and describe a base hit up the middle, but it's also, I find it really challenging to just completely get into the moment of doing it when I know I'm not live and the game's not really happening in front of me. But this is how you practice, Jesse, is to do that anyways.
Yes. The thing that struck me when Altuve stepped in is I know that Jose Altuve is up there to swing the bat. So as opposed to other hitters where they'll sit back, I'm ready for each pitch to be swung at. Here's Alex Bregman. He's going to be a little bit more patient. But I liked what you said in terms of the focus on Skeens, the focus on Altuve, the focus on the matchup as a whole. This is, once again, it's 1-on-1. So it's how is Skeens going to do against Bregman? No score. And he takes a called strike. Every time that there's a new batter, here's the reset. Or every time for me that we get 4 pitches into the at-bat, here's the reset. We have a runner at first base. There's nobody out. We're in the bottom of the first inning. There's no score. And so now this is also when I start to say, what is Skeens doing to attack these hitters? It gets to me a couple of batters in. And you mentioned the early slider to Altuve. All right. Is this fastball heavy to start like you might assume coming in the first inning? Or how's he feeling about his off-speed stuff? How's he feeling about his great secondary stuff? Check on Altuve. Clearly not important enough for the camera to follow it. But 1 ball and 2 strikes with Skeens on the mound. The thought naturally goes to potential for a strikeout here. The 1-2. Fouled it back. That's where the broadcaster leans into he fought it off, right? He hangs tough. I liked also you mentioning let it breathe here in the early going. right from the start of the game. Try again. 1-2 pitch, Skeens to Bregman. Got him. There's the first strikeout for Skeens. But in the first inning, because the broadcaster's adrenaline is hitting, I think the first inning is when you have the temptation to talk the most, and then you settle into the groove.
Yeah, I admit that I absolutely do that too, and especially at the minor league level, I have this information about the starting pitcher. I want to get this information out. If it's radio, his height, his weight, where he went to college, when he was drafted. So here's Yordan Alvarez, number 3 hitter for the Astros. And first pitch, he fouls it out. He gets popped up. I feel like I'm doing terrible play-by-play. So there's 2 outs. I was going to add that I have these sand timers, right? This is a 2-minute sand timer that I have. I have a 1 minute, a 3 minute, and a 5 minute. This is my visual reminder to continually say the score, right? So I turn it over this way. And if I look down and I see that it's empty, then I know it's been 2 minutes since I've said the score. And then I flip it over once I say no score, first inning. You're a batter, Jesse.
All right, so Diaz steps in. They just showed up the percentages for how often Paul Skeens uses his pitches. How much do you research that coming in about a pitcher and how often each pitch is used?
It's a really good question.
0-1, down and in, ball and a strike, reset. Runner at first base, 2 gone, no score in the bottom of the first inning.
I only like to use those percentages if it matters. Sometimes we have really good access to numbers in the minor leagues. Sometimes we don't. I feel like TV broadcasts just do it out of habit these days. But if I am presenting that information, I want to make sure that I say why this matters. I don't want to just give random numbers. What's the context? If I say that he throws his fastball 52% of the time, well, what's the major league average? Is that below average? Is that above average? Is that way above average? You know what I mean? So I want to make sure that I'm not just giving numbers for the sake of numbers, that there's a point to the numbers.
Out of play. That word that you used that I appreciate is habit, because we do fall into habits, and there's vocal, verbal muscle memory that I think serves us well often. But I do think that we should constantly interrogate ourselves. Why are we saying this? This is a 1-2. And down he goes. Skeens strikes out his second. Scoreless. End of 1. How often do you say at the end of a half inning, runs, hits, errors, man left?
I do it every time.
Every single time?
Yep, every single time. Yeah, the only time that I don't do it is if I had a corporate guest who joined me and kept talking and we're well into the commercial break is the only time that I don't.
Do you find that it serves you well? Are you saying it as you're writing it into your scorecard?
Yep. I'm looking at my scorebook. I'm doing, and then I'm writing it down as I'm saying it, and it's just part of my rhythm to get into the commercial break. It's also kind of keeps me locked in on what just happened. And if it's 3 up, 3 down, then I won't say no runs, no hits, no errors, nobody left. I'll just say nothing across. Okay, so now we're into the second inning, and I feel like when I get to the second inning, if I haven't really given the details about a starting pitcher, especially if he's off to a good start, this is a good time to get into maybe some details about Tanner Scott. Maybe, again, where he went to college, where he's from, how many years he's been playing, some of those like basic details. Now might be a good time as we've kind of settled into the second inning. I forget which one of us is doing play-by-play here, but it's a pop up to the second baseman. That's Altuve out in shallow right. So there's 1 away.
What I really like too is when you sit back and you relax, there's so much pressure that we put on ourselves to call things and to be right on them. And you realize relaxing with it, and you don't have to do as much as you think. You just have to make what you're doing meaningful.
I'm a big believer in it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. And so let them hear you smile. It's impossible. They can't hear you smile, but they can hear the tone of your voice, that you're smiling, that you're enjoying this, that you're happy. Your voice does change when you have a smile on your face. And I think that that's overall the tone that I try to set is that I'm so excited to be here. And I'm thrilled that you've joined us.
This is Joey Bart. You've noticed that the score bug has disappeared. This happens. You just have to be ready. So, scoreless. Pitch is spoiled foul to the right. I've been in stadiums where the scoreboard stops working. The video board shuts down. You just don't want to have the blue screen. And so you've got your scorecard to rely on. It is up to us to make sure that everyone knows no score, the pitch to Bart, low and away. And then when I first started, I never kept track of balls and strikes on my scorecard. And I've discovered that I need to, because I should not trust certain minor league scoreboards. I need to make sure that I know what it is, because the umpire can forget too. Here's the pitch. Swing and a miss. How about that for a strikeout pose?
All right, so this is probably at times, because he's already struck out so many batters to begin this game, that even if I said it in the first inning, I'd want to remind the audience how often he strikes out batters. What's his strikeouts to innings pitched, or his K per 9 innings, to let the audience know this is who he is, or this is who he is not. And I'd probably get into how difficult it is for a righty on righty matchup. Okay, this batter swings to the first pitch, grounds out to short. And so immediately the Pirates are thinking, I better put the ball in play early against this guy. And boom, our inning is over again already that quickly.
It is the game that affects the game to come. I think that's really important. Oh, by the way, the TV broadcast clearly never got her out of the Pirates starting defense. Let's get to it here in the bottom of the second inning.
And that's fine. That's totally fine. You should do that from time to time in the 6th and 7th innings to remind people who the defense is.
Well, yes, because you never know when people are joining. So it's scoreless. We're going to the bottom of the second inning. Here come the Astros. We're going to begin with Jeremy Pena taking on Paul Skeens. And I love to start with, who are the three batters? It's Pena, John Singleton, and Jake Myers due up at home plate. We're in Houston, Texas.
I really like to add, where in the batting lineup are we?
Yes. Skeens throws. How about the slider at the knees? So this is 5, 6, and 7 in the order. In the first inning, Jose Altuve, a single, stranded. That's what we've got so far. The pitch, up a little high. Where we've gotten bitten several times already is the early swings. By the way, how often do you check your K-zone to see if a pitch was in the zone or not?
It varies. And I'm pausing here.
2-1. There's a
couple. Because you realize just how fast the game starts to move when you're actually doing play-by-play. Baseball's this slow sport for most people. When you're doing play-by-play, it can be really fast.
The second you start broadcasting is the second you go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I felt like I was a trapeze artist falling without a net the first couple of times I was doing a baseball game. Things would happen, and I would just try to write it down on my scorecard, and I would fall 2, 3 batters behind. The pitch. Reached out, poked it in the air, out to right center field. Center fielder calls for it. Catch made. Out recorded. By the way, in center field, it's G1 Bay for the Pirates today.
So now there's a number of ways that you can reset things. You can say that it's scoreless. Obviously, the TV broadcast really wants to get into the uniqueness of the Crawford boxes and how short it is in left field. I really like this graphic, how it jets out, that angle. There used to be a hill in center field. That is now gone. It's much deeper in right field, a lot more fans. So clearly the director and the play-by-play and the analysts are probably talking about those things. But I was about to say that when it comes to a reset, again, I can say that it's scoreless, but I think the more important reset is Paul Skeens has retired 5 straight. Here's the 6th batter of the game for the Astros.
Do you know what I appreciate about that is immediately you set up this, will he get 6 straight? And it adds urgency to the at-bat.
And immediately he's ahead 0-2. And Skeens delivers. A weak swing and a miss. Okay, my outs are off. Now it's 5 in a row. This is what happens when you don't have a scorebook in front of you in which you're keeping score. Okay, so now it's 5 in a row. At this point, Jesse, I'm already noticing how feeble the swings are of the Houston Astros hitters and how totally overmatched they are. And even the look on his face, John Singleton's face, that the hitters almost are like, oh my goodness, I have no chance against this guy.
Yeah. So, good luck, Jake Myers. We'll see how this goes. Skeens falls behind. Reset. No score. Bottom of the second inning. 2 outs, nobody on. Myers against Skeens. Right-hander against right-hander if you're on radio. And doesn't chase outside. 2 balls and no strikes. Something that I think it's important to look at in every single half inning is, where is the significance? And as you pointed out, right now the significance is with Paul Skeens. Can he post another 0? Can it be his first perfect inning? 2-0? And that's fouled. So the attention, the focus, and right now, because it's TV, we can put the camera right on him. But I always think about how a movie gets to show you what's important, what perspective we should be looking at it. Whereas with baseball, when that pitch comes in, we're looking at the pitcher and the batter equally. The broadcaster does not have to look at the pitcher and the batter equally. It's a hitter's pitch here on 2-1, and he skied it. Will that ball get out of play? Third base side, Hayes over. Room to make the catch. Oh, that's fun. And that is a perfect inning for Paul Skeens.
Great camera shot here. Layout for the analyst to describe. Analyst takes it to break.
Boy, Ke'Bryan Hayes right near the dugout. That guy's got a good glove. Situational awareness.
So one of the things that we're already noticing here is just the difference between radio and TV as well, because if we're on TV, the director is telling us in our ear, the producer is, we've got this camera shot coming up of this foul ball. It's a great angle. Okay. So you don't know that when you're practicing as we are, as we're talking through this. If you're on radio, maybe you see that in the monitor and you describe it yourself, but it goes to show the difference is on radio, you're the director, the producer, and play-by-play. Television, really, like you're following what they show you.
Consider reacting. Jared Triolo, high in the air, right side, foul ground. There's room, and there's the out. So 2 gone in the top of the third inning. No score here so far. It's such a reacting and then having fun. And that is the tone that you were trying to set, I would argue, is we are enjoying this baseball game together. Hey, let's take a look back at that play that ended the second inning.
So now the director is showing us, okay, there's action in the bullpen. The first pitch is taken inside for ball 1. And again, a time that I might remind, this is a bullpen game for the Astros. The most number of pitches that he's thrown is whatever. We'll see how many more batters he's going to face. And the 1-0 to Grandal is a little outside.
Let me ask you, Josh. So TV, how much, because I've heard of Joe Buck or Joe Davis say things like the 2-0 pitch. How much would you comment on the pitch coming in?
Depends on what I want to make a lot of eye contact with my analyst and just see if the analyst has something that he wants to say and allow him to jump in. I don't want to get into too much of where it is if we're in the middle of a discussion, but if there's kind of a pause on our back and forth, then that's the time that I might do a little bit more radio play-by-play on TV. Now with 3-1, and it's a rollover ground ball to the shortstop on the right side, and Singleton keeps his foot on the bag for the out. Yes, he did keep his foot on the bag. I also feel like that's the time where that's the analyst shines, right? As the play-by-play, you shut up. You let the analyst do his thing.
Let me put in, too, that we go into a game with so much prep, and we've talked to people, and we've gone through the stats. But so far, 2 of the best moments of this game have just been things that have happened. Hayes on the dugout railing. Singleton tumbling over with the full-on stretch. And so it's just so much better if you're enjoying what's there in front of you and all of the prep you keep in your back pocket for when you need it. But right now, just watch the baseball game. I will get in that trouble where I'll look down instead of watching what's going on.
And so Paul Skeens begins his third inning. And my mind works here that I'm thinking, okay, leadoff single to Altuve. He has since retired 6 in a row. Looks like he's at 26 pitches through 2 innings, so that's a pretty low number. So he's on a good pace so far. The Pirates have been careful with Skeens. They're making sure that he's not throwing 120 something pitches. I'd remind the audience of that. And now we've got the number 8 hitter, Victor Caratini. And immediately, maybe at this point, since he's gotten, I was about to say that he's gotten ahead in the count, but it looks like it's a 1-1 count. I think the balls and strikes is off. Anyways, I might describe first pitch strikes and just kind of, because again, my focus is on Paul Skeens. And so I want to describe as much as I can about what Paul Skeens is doing, but also recognizing how quickly he's working. So be careful with the words that you get in between these pitches.
I'm looking a little bit to the future too, and I'm saying it's about to have the lineup turn over. Right, we're about to see round 2, Astros against Skeens. So it's Caratini, Cabbage, and then comes Altuve and Bregman again. So can either of the 8-9 hitters get on base before them?
So we have a fly ball to left field that's caught on the warning track. And my mind on radio is, let's make sure to remind people that was almost off the wall. We could even see the reaction of the left fielder. It's a short porch in Houston. I'm not a guy who gives the dimensions in the first inning every night. I wait for the first time that it's appropriate. And this would be the time that I would jump into it. Maybe I would check the computer screen to say that ball only traveled 315 feet, but it was caught on the warning track because of how short the dimensions are in left field.
This is Trey Cabbage batting 9th. You've probably seen that the score bug comes and goes. It comes and goes, which is such a great way to say, don't rely on your technology, watch the game, just try to stay on top of it. No score. We're in the bottom of the 3rd inning. On the pitch, swing and a miss. And now I might comment, how often have we seen a swing and a miss from an Astros batter in the early going against Skeens? Where's the defense with the left-handed batter up there? How far off the third base side is Ke'Bryan Hayes? The pitch, swing and a miss. No chance. Down goes another. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, Trey Cabbage.
All right, so now second time through the lineup, as Jesse mentioned, probably mentioning how guys just aren't even seeing the ball. They're swinging at pitches that are nowhere close to the strike zone. That's how dominant Skeens is. But now here's round 2, top of the order, Jose Altuve, already quickly 2 outs, nobody on, no score. Altuve ready to swing at the first pitch, but was not able to hold back, strike 1. Yeah, I think he went around. 0-1 pitch. Swing and a pop-up. That is... So I just saw the umpire indicating out. Maybe a batter's interference.
I think that ball went off a wire.
Maybe it went off a wire. I thought I saw the umpire put his hand up.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, he put his hands out wide and he pointed. Okay. It wasn't a fist. He was pointing to say it hit a wire.
Off the deflection.
And now the 0-2. Or was that a because of the wire, was that a no play?
It's the old Tampa catwalk situation. Yeah, do-over.
Tried him outside. Altuve laid off. My mind as an announcer would also be to point out how far Altuve stays away from home plate and how I've never understood how he gets hits on pitches that are away, but he laid off that pitch away. It's crazy how far off the plate he is for someone so small. And now the battle between these two gets a little more intense. And Skeens delivers. And a harmless fly ball to right center field. Right fielder calls for it. He's got it. 9 straight for Skeens since the leadoff single by Altuve. And now we head to the 4th inning. No score. Astros, Pirates.
Josh, let's pause it right here real quick before the 4th inning starts. This is the sort of game that I would argue is both a broadcaster's dream and nightmare. If you just want to call the game, if you've got nothing else, this game is gift wrapped for you, right? And there are games that we call that this can happen where you're just up there calling pitches and balls in play and Skeens throws, and here we go. And you just are motoring right through. But if you've got so many different things that you can't wait to get to, and you really wanted to get into depth on Skeens, or you have examined these Space City uniforms and you can't wait to describe them, or the dimensions. How often have we seen during this TV broadcast, let's watch this replay, let's check this out. Wait, something's happening in the game. It's not optimal for that.
And this is definitely a byproduct of how much the pitch timers changed baseball, changed it back to how it was when you and I were growing up, Jesse, and how important it is to be economical with your words in between these pitches, in between these outs, and making sure that, again, I'm the philosophy is the game comes first. I sometimes start to get self-conscious that, okay, all I'm describing is strike 1, strike 2, there's another out. So I want to look for some times that I can, maybe I pull up the baseball thesaurus from Jesse and think about what are different ways that I can describe this strikeout or this ground out? What are different phrases that I can use so that I don't feel self-conscious that I'm just saying the same thing over and over again?
Yeah. I look to be a little bit sly. Before a game starts, I've written down one little thing about each batter and the starting pitcher that strikes my fancy. Not statistical, personality-wise. And I might start to slide in those little subtle things, those little details. He's one of 14 kids, whatever it might be. But you just got to insert it and then move on. When a game is moving like this, you can't dwell on things because batters are not dwelling at home plate.
It's interesting you bring that up because I think that this is something that I've had to remind myself. In the minor league baseball, it's now a 6-game series. So I try to constantly remind myself, look, it's okay to save this. Save this for game 2. Save it for game 3. You got a 6-game series. You can repeat these stories multiple times. So look for the right times to say that he's one of 14 children. The right time to say that he went to 4 different colleges and he got drafted 3 times before he finally signed. To get into those types of things, wait for the right moment.
You mentioning that Altuve stands a ways off home plate, that would actually send me into a larger idea. And then I would start to the next batter, and now because Altuve made the final out, as the Pirates open things up, I think that I would comment on, for the very first batter, how far are they away from home plate? That would lead me into something larger rather than that just being something that I discard.
I'm really glad you brought that up because that makes me think that when you're on television, this is the perfect thing that you discuss before a game.
Yes.
Or maybe you realized it during game 1 of the series and you go, okay, before game 2, let's get different shots of where Altuve is and let's compare him to all the other hitters so that we can visualize just how far away from home plate he does stand compared to everybody else. And now I want to bring in my analyst. If it's a pitcher and I would want to ask my analyst, how do you approach a hitter who's that far away? And if I'm a batter, what are the pros and cons of what happens when you sit up that far away? And that's where you can really take advantage of everyone's expertise.
Let's get to Paul Skeens. So you mentioned all the awkward swings and misses. This starts pregame too. We're about to see him on the mound. Why is he meeting with such success? What makes him so effective? So we've talked about that in advance. We've laid that out in our pregame show. And now we're actually seeing it happen. And we can look at a swing and miss and say, here's why this occurred. Here's why it is very difficult to hit off of him.
Want to get back to the game?
Yes, but first, one last point. Our score bug is not staying consistent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not up there. And because that's been the case, and because the batter's name might pop up and disappear, it seems to me so important that if you're calling this game, you really do have to keep on saying, no score. Here's the batter. here's the situation. It is taking us back to pre-score bug land, where you really do need to keep on resetting what's happening. If someone's tuning in right now, they won't know. And it just shows to me the importance of you need to keep giving no score third inning, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think it's really important that you learn play-by-play fundamentals on radio first, and then I think you can go to television afterwards. I think that's why, because you don't know what the technology is going to be from pitch to pitch.
Yeah.
And a shot of the dugout, they're pointing up to where the ball hit the wire in the previous inning. Curious if the director will play a replay of it. We have a lot of people looking up into the sky as we come back to start the fourth inning.
It was O'Neill Cruz who made that catch. Brian Hayes thought that he was camped under the ball on foul ground, and the wire almost came into play on the Hayes foul out catch earlier on in the game. We open up the fourth inning, and we begin with a called strike from a new pitcher. So Taylor Scott is now out of the game. Caleb Ort is in. And this is between the end of the third and the start of the fourth. We have seen Ort come out of the pen, but one of the quickest things to do, right? Identify who's the pitcher. And from there, as he misses inside, from there, all right, back into our hitters. And we're right back up to the top of the order. Here's Joshua Palacios, the leadoff man, Reynolds and Cruz to follow. No score, top of the fourth from Houston. The pitch, low, 2 balls and a strike. And, of course, when a batter starts to come up for the second time, this is where you say, he is 0 for 1 today. Here's what he did his first time. A hitter's count. And a swing and a miss. I constantly, and I hope that I don't overuse it, but I think that I have to watch myself with this. When the count goes to 1-2 or 2-1, 3-1, whatever the case may be, I'm constantly thinking 3-1, 2-1, hitters count. This should be a pitch that the batter wants to launch on. When it gets swung at and missed, I think tip your cap to the pitcher. 2-2, punched on the ground left side. Jeremy Pena with the backhand. And the spin and the throw. Singleton picks it up. That's a sparkling first out.
Okay, so I think this is a good example of how there's not one and only one way. Jesse was just saying how he wants to go back to the batter. The way that my mind worked was, I want to recap again that this is a bullpen game for the Astros, that we have a new pitcher. Maybe I'll get into how many relievers are available for the Astros in this game. Maybe I'll say that somebody pitched, this guy's not going to be available because he's pitched 2 straight games. And I want to kind of get into the number of relievers that are available for the Astros in this game, since we're probably going to see a bunch of them. Maybe I'll be describing how Brian Reynolds and the Pirates are happy to just see anybody else based on their futility the first time through the lineup. And there's a wave and a miss, and once again, the score bug is having problems. I did notice before that last pitch, Jesse, that the pitch timer was down to 3 when he delivered it. I probably wouldn't say anything, but I'm just going to keep that in the back of my mind that this pitcher is a little bit slower than the previous one. And here's a fly ball to center field. Routine play. I believe that's Jake Myers, formerly of the Sugarland Space Cowboys, who makes the catch.
Let me add in too. Did you see Palacios come up hurting as he crossed first base? So I would say to you, hey, in an aside, remind me, in between innings, let's you and I see if Palacios has stayed in the game or if he's been removed. Hey, O'Neill Cruz has had his moments recently. Steps in against Ort and takes a strike called across the inside corner. 2 outs and nobody on top of the fourth inning and no score. And we need to tell you that. O'Neill Cruz named for Paul O'Neill. Here's the pitch. Fouled away left side.
Now, if I'm working with Jesse, I might be curious to follow up. Really, were the Cruz family Yankees fans or Reds fans?
Exactly. And then that leads into the whole story. And did you know that the Boise State quarterback this year was named for Greg Maddux? And then which other players were named for famous people? I mean, the classic example from me baseball wise is that Ryan Sandberg was named for Ryan Duran. Here's the pitch. And the breaking ball is pulled on the ground, right side. Altuve's there, over to first. And quickly, down go the Pirates. Scoreless through 3.5.
So this game's moving along very quickly. I am not a believer of the broadcaster jinx. Most people are in terms of how fast the game is moving on. But again, this is where I feel like once I get to the fourth inning, I like to do a reset of what the starting pitchers have done so far. So here's Skeens versus Alex Bregman. First pitch, a called strike. Maybe it's if you're just joining us, Jose Altuve, a leadoff single since then. Skeens has retired 9 in a row. I'm going to guess approximately 4 or 5 of them via strikeout. I would know the exact number if I was really calling this game. Bregman takes that pitch on the outside corner for a called strike, and Skeens, maybe at this point I would say the strike to walk ratio for Skeens, because I know that he has thrown very few balls. I don't even think he's gone to a 3-ball count. I would check my scorebook in order to confirm this before I say it. Here's the pitch. Bregman hits it on the ground and a base hit the other way. So just the second hit off Skeens, both of them singles. Bregman really just in protect mode there, just trying to find a way to get the bat on the ball. And they're playing him to pull off the end of the bat and just gets it past the first baseman, who's way off the line. If he's a left-handed batter, that's a routine ground out. But a right-handed batter, it's a single to right field.
By the way, it does look like Josh Palacios has stayed in the game for the Pirates. All
I
right.
might mention that Skeens is working from the stretch for the first time since the first inning.
Remember, Yordan Alvarez was gone immediately in the first inning. So he takes the first pitch here. But he was up there trying to ambush Skeens. There's no score. Runner at first. Well, that's barely contacted. Back behind him, reaching out, down and away. Once again, not too comfortable the second time around against Skeens. When a batter like Alvarez is up there, I'm on home run alert.
Mm-hmm.
Every single pitch, I'm ready. Like this 1-1 from the big right-hander. Off the inside corner, ball 2. Hitter's count for Alvarez.
I think this is when it becomes really important to have a good memory of how Skeens pitches to the key batters in a game, like an Alvarez. Sliders versus fastballs, so on and so forth.
Batted foul, yanked up the right side. In that sense, you are putting yourself into the mind of Yordan Alvarez. Mm-hmm. You're saying, what should he expect right here? And then for the Pirates, you would want to be a tendency breaker for Grandal working with Skeens. All right, here's what he's expecting. Do we go to it? Do we just trust that the stuff is good enough? 2-2, a ground ball on the right side. It's good enough. Get 1, over to first, get 2. Erase the leadoff single by Bregman.
So this is a point into a broadcast where, again, I go back to Skeens. He's only allowed 2 hits. The second one got immediately erased on a double play. He is just in complete command of this game right now. But how long will he continue to be able to pitch? Back to the windup, 2 outs, nobody on. First pitch inside for a ball. And if you're the Astros, he just went through the top guys in the order, right? And so now my mind is working like, how many more quick outs can he get? In the air, left center, off the base of the wall. So weird calling play-by-play off a monitor like this. So we have a double here. I think that if we were doing this like to practice, we would have it on a full screen instead of the smaller screen that Jesse and I are looking at right here. But look, there's a lot of broadcasts now that are strictly off a monitor, and it's challenging. Gives me better perspective for all the major league broadcasters who had to do it during COVID. That ball bounced off two different walls there.
Get extra points if you're playing pinball. Well, single, double play, double. And strike one here. Jeremy Pena stepped in. Astros looking to take the lead. No score with 2 gone in the bottom of the 4th inning, but a chance against Paul Skeens.
Yeah, I'm building drama here that this is the first real chance for the Astros. It might be their only chance all night.
Here's the pitch. Strike called on the outside corner. I think, too, it's important to really let the crowd sound come through, especially the home team threatening. The pitch, up and in, purposefully so. And now, I would think that would set up the secondary stuff away. Do you go splinker? Do you go slider? The pitch to Pena, low, lays off.
I think that's the first time that Skeens has put the glove near his ear, probably because of the crowd, the energy that's in the ballpark.
Check swing. Did he go? Denied. No swing. I would think that's exactly right. So now you've got that crowd noise intensifying. What do you think? Did he go? Anytime they show the replay, I immediately feel we have to react to it. We can't let it go unspoken upon. The pitch. Popped him up, right side. Stays in the field of play. Right at Tellez near the coaching box. Makes the catch. Skeens dodges the Astros' threat. Houston grounded. Scoreless through 4. And let's pause right there.
All right, so we've completed 4 innings. We're just a little bit under an hour in our recording for this. And so I'm actually going to stop the screen so, Jesse, we can just kind of finish up our thoughts here about, no, seriously, how do you call a baseball game?
Yes. And where we started to layer it from the very start, score, batter, pitch. I really liked all the different things that we started to get into. What are you looking at? Whose perspective are you seeing this from? What are you taking into account?
And also, all of the notes that you prepare, those still come secondary. That the game comes first, in my opinion. At the same point, you still want to try to get some of those notes in, but just think about them in bullet points of how to get them in and recognizing certain moments, right? That, again, I come back to, this is breaking news. Okay. What is the most important thing that is happening right now? This is breaking news, and making sure that there's a reason why you're talking about something. And again, I'll go back to the Crawford boxes in left field. Okay. I want to talk about that short dimensions for a reason. And that is, there was a routine fly ball that was almost an extra base hit because of how short the dimensions are. And so I just want to be purposeful, mindful of, why does this matter? Look, sometimes it doesn't matter. I just got to keep talking. And so what can I find that's interesting when there's really nothing interesting happening out there? Because Paul Skeens doesn't start every game. A lot of times you need those those notes, that information, that background, Jesse.
I also start writing down during the game the things, not for the broadcast, but for conversations after the game and the next day before the next game. And I would start to ask people, okay, ask about the wire, ask about this play, ask about Key Brian Hayes going to the dugout, ask about Paul Skeens and was it difficult to hear the pitch comm? Things that I can follow up on from the game that I can then come back the next day's broadcast and say, I talked to this person, we talked about this, they said this. You start to gain nuggets if you're paying attention game to game, and that builds your way through a season.
That's a really good idea, Jesse. And I might go out of my way to have like my notebook next to me so that I can write these things down to make sure that I follow up the next day, because I usually just go off my memory. Maybe sometimes I'll write something down, but I usually go off my memory. And I think that's a really good idea. And I think it's just natural conversations that builds camaraderie with people too. Like, hey, has that ever happened to you that a ball hit the line like that and then it got redirected? And then maybe someone will say, oh yeah, in junior college it happened all the time or whatever. And now you've got more and more layers to build off in the future.
Yeah. So this is a start in how you call a baseball game. Stay on top of it, get ready for your technology to break, and then you have fun.
Man, it makes me want to call a game tomorrow, but it's still January and it's snowing. We have to wait another 3 months.
Hey, I saw your field. Your field could need some time. Let everything warm up for you. Josh, thank you for taking the time.
Great idea. I enjoyed this. I think it's important no matter how long you've been doing play-by-play, whether you're a college student, whether you are just getting started in minor league baseball, whether you've been working for over a decade like Jesse and I, whether you've spent 3 decades in the major leagues, to kind of get back to the roots. And I think that the off season is a good time to get back to the roots of what it is that you're doing on the broadcast and why you're doing it on the broadcast. And I think that these are the things that we can do in the off season that it's hard to do during the season because we always have another game. And so I really enjoyed getting back to the roots of how you call a baseball game.
How you craft the call, perhaps. For Josh Sushan, the esteemed broadcaster, the voice of Albuquerque, I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, the voice of Lansing. And thank you so much for enjoying this Crafting the Call.